Our owl pick this month is Leonard Siegel from Oberman Thompson & Siegel. Leonard is going to talk to us about non-compete agreements. Now, you're about to hear from a lawyer, but this should not be construed or taken as legal advice. Please seek a lawyer about your own particular situation.
One issue companies frequently face is how to protect their confidential information and customers when an employee leaves. Well, there are two things, at least, that a company can do in advance to prepare for that day. One is to use a non-compete agreement. Two is to use a confidentiality agreement. What is a non-compete agreement? That provides that if an individual leaves your employment for some period of time, he or she can't go work for a competitor. Now, a lot of people think they're not enforceable. There's a misconception on that. In Minnesota, if they're properly drafted, they absolutely are enforceable. Now, I should say to be careful depending upon which law applies, because in some states that's not the case. They would not be enforceable. In Minnesota, to be enforceable, you need to have a couple of things: consideration and a reasonable scope. Consideration means the individual is getting something. In other words, I get this job, I can't compete for a year after I leave the job, or 6 months, whatever the case may be. The best consideration is the job itself. But in Minnesota, to use the job as consideration, that agreement must be provided to that person in advance. Best time to do that is part of a contingent job offer. Once the individual starts, the job is no longer enough. You need to give that person something extra, something above and beyond the job in order to get a non-compete agreement. Beyond consideration, a non-compete must be reasonable in terms of time and in terms of geographic scope, what area is covered by the non-compete agreement. And oftentimes now we see a customer restriction in addition to or in lieu of a geographic scope. In addition to non-competes, confidentiality agreements really should be used a lot more liberally than they are now. You have important information that makes your business. Use a confidentiality agreement. Ensure that individuals aren't going to take your confidential, proprietary, trade secret information and use it against you. That's the use of confidentiality agreements. So through the use of those and non-competes, you should go a long ways towards protecting your business interests when an employee leaves.